it's a different way of doing life, when you're away from convenience. And I mean, I like it. I like it both ways. But I do miss some of the convenience factors, or I miss the just options everywhere in America. Whatever you want, you've got options everywhere. There's something for everyone. And
interesting.
Yeah. And you just don't have to even think about it. Back in the US, it's just, I know that if I get my friends together at this place or this restaurant, they're going to offer 100 options.
Welcome to So Where Are You From? I am your host, Nishin Begheri, a first-generation Iranian American by identity and an immigration attorney by profession. Today is a very special guest, a guest who actually lives an ocean away and is joining us via Zoom to talk with us. Please welcome Jennifer Malcom. Jennifer is a neurophysiologist and director of business for a neuromonitoring service company based in central London. Welcome, Jennifer.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. It's good to see you.
It's so good to see you. I'm so excited that we can connect this way. Thank you for taking the time with the time change and your work schedule. This is great. I'm so excited for our conversation.
Yeah, me too. Me too. Thank you.
So Jennifer, what I usually ask my guests, and for you, it should be quite interesting from now that you live in England, that I ask my guests, so where are you from? And I'm sure you get that question asked a lot more because you're in England with no British accent. So what would you say when people ask you that?
That's always a good question. And I usually say that, I'm an American and I live here. So I'm, currently living in London. And that usually becomes a big conversation. It's like, oh, you're American. Well, what brought you here? This is far from home. And so it's nice to kind of answer where I'm from, but also where I live now. And it just evolves into interesting conversations with folks.
I know sometimes you wish it's like a simple answer, but then it's like you have to define it a little bit more. They really want to know the background of it. But so pretty much you're saying, yes, you live in Europe. You've lived in Europe now for how many years? England was not your first stop. You were in the Netherlands, correct?
Yeah, correct. I first moved abroad. I moved to the Netherlands in 2019.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And so I was there, then COVID hit and I stayed there alone. Hanging out. And then after kind of at the tail end of COVID, so around 2021, end of 2021 is when I moved to London. And I've been in London ever since. So I've been living abroad for 4 years, but mostly split between Netherlands and England.
Not currently, but you're centralized. You're stationed in London now.
Yes, I'm stationed in London now. Yes.
Okay. So what was the decision that led you to, cross the pond to Europe? Like, what made you pick up and go to the Netherlands?
It was for work. I was offered a really unique, hard to come by job opportunity. And honestly, I could not say no. And
was it a US based company or a European company?
It was a US based company, but they have a global footprint. So they're on almost every continent. And they had a headquarters based in Amsterdam. And it was impossible for me to say no to that adventure. So it was.
I don't blame you.
Yeah, it was just familiar enough by just the nature of this company that felt like a huge family globally still, but a family. So just enough familiarity and ease with, this is what I can do as my job over there. I understand, kind of the ins and outs of this role, but it would be in a completely different team, a different context, many different factors, a huge territory. So it was so much more of the challenge and the interest that really got me. So I was like, absolutely. Wait, where am I going? So it was the start of many yeses in life.
Oh, that's amazing. But the current job you have in London, it's not the same one. You're able to find another company to work for that brought you to London, correct?
Yes, correct. It's in the same medical field, like medical and healthcare. And it's a job that kind of pulls together some of my past work experiences. And I was just able to find a good fit. And it was a way to get me to the UK. And
That's
even in the midst
amazing.
of COVID, it was my best ticket in and made so much sense. So it worked out for me to have another job opportunity and a visa that was work-based to bring me over to the UK.
That is, it's like everything was just aligned perfectly, especially with your career background to get to the next one. That's amazing.
Yeah.
So I've been seeing, like, one thing I want to pick your brain about is that, so I see a lot of things on social media and vlogs of Americans and this trend of everyone wanting to now move outside of the US and like either would be Europe, Asia, the Caribbean to in search of a more affordable, better living situation than what is currently how it is here in the US and the atmosphere here. Can you describe the process of what it took for you to move there and how did you maintain residency?
Yeah, good question. In fact, even the idea of moving to the Caribbean, that sounds great. I'll go there. Um,
Too much humidity for my hair.
yeah. Um, so for me, it was, I think, a little bit smoother and easier of a process because I was sponsored. My visa, I should say, my work visa was sponsored by a very large company that had gone through this process like hundreds, if not thousands of times before. So they were very familiar and fluent with the whole process, very well resourced. So for me to come over, for me to come over to the Netherlands, it was just a matter of filling out a lot of forms, providing information, all kinds of records, and handing it over to a lawyer who specialized in this process. And I basically just got to sit back and wait for them to come back with a decision. But all parties involved were very optimistic because it was such a streamlined process. Mm-hmm. So moving to the Netherlands on that visa was very easy, straightforward. And I believe the turnaround was also really quick. And it's a very organized nation. And, you land and 9 days later, you get this. And then 2 days later, you show up here and you get that. And it's just boom, boom, wow. Boom. You plugged in very quickly.
I wish our immigration agencies here were that, productive and organized.
Yeah, the contrast shows you a lot of factors to appreciate and realizing how well things could go, but also all the different factors along the way that can make it go poorly or, less than ideally. And why not just make it smooth and streamlined and, less painful for everyone? Because it is hectic and stressful enough to do that. And then the second time around that I did the visa and immigration process, that was to the UK. And that took a little bit longer. And I think that had mostly to do with, it was COVID. Everything was stalled. But once again, felt pretty optimistic. And my visa for the UK was also work-based, but it was for like a highly skilled person, which got expedited because I was able to provide a skill set that was hard to come by for the UK specifically. So that helped speed up the process. And it was the same thing of fill out some forms, information, provide records, hand it to a lawyer. They handle it on their end. I do what I can from the US. No big deal. It was, once again, very streamlined overall. And then I got approved and booked a flight and moved over to London. And it was, like I said, tail end of COVID. So it was a few quirks here and there in getting around and getting things approved. But overall, it went as best and smoothly as it could. And I was over here in London, I think within under 6 weeks. So very fast.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, very fast. Yeah.
Is it easy there, like as an immigration attorney, just converting from a work visa to like citizenship? Can you get citizenship or residency there?
I can after a few more years. I think it's at least 5 years. And then I can apply for like a separate kind of residency type permit. And I figured I will cross that bridge when I get there. It's not the only avenue to stay. But I think if anything, this process has taught me just to be very present and in the moment and try not to get too wrapped up in what could be or what will happen next.
I love that.
Yeah. On the flip side, that's also a privilege to not have to worry or feel pressured to worry and figure out and, 3 steps ahead. I don't always feel like I have to play checkers. I feel like sometimes different privileges and different ways of going about things that I'm allowed to go about a little bit more carefree can make me feel a little bit more relaxed in this process. But it's definitely, there's a lot involved.
Okay. Yes, I can imagine. But I love hearing the little familiarity kind of with the UK system, immigration system, and the US. It doesn't seem too far apart. So how has been the adjustment? So I would think, so you had the adjustment to the Netherlands, which is completely different language, a little bit different culture, but at least with London, you speak the language, it's a little bit easier to get around. How was adjustment was one easier than the other or kind of the same?
They were similar and different in equal parts, honestly. The language was definitely different in learning some elements of Dutch to move to the Netherlands. But where I lived, which was Amsterdam, it's very focused and easy to get around, speaking mostly English. So they make that very easy and accommodating because they're used to a lot of tourists. And Dutch was actually kind of fun to listen to and adapt to and pick up things. It was actually really cool to have that challenge.
And I saw that you adapted to the bicycling around town culture. Those bicycles are everywhere. Yes. They're deadly. I almost got run over by them once.
Yeah, it's definitely a huge part of life, like day-to-day life. And I realized when I moved to the Netherlands, I think it was like a month or two later, I realized, oh, this is me. I'm on a bike wearing a dress. I've got a coffee in one hand and I'm riding on my way to like a medical convention. And it was normal. It felt completely easy, normal. And I was like, oh, great. I'll be there in 20 minutes. Don't have to worry about parking. Everyone's riding a bike and you just go with the flow. So that was like a realization moment where I was like, oh, I did kind of assimilate to this very easily without realizing it.
That's really
but then
cool.
There were times, yeah. And then there were times I was like, oh, this feels so easy here in the Netherlands versus moving and trying to assimilate to London. It's massive in London. It's so huge. So even though I understand English, there's so many nuances and so many phrases. I have to catch myself and be like, wait, what did they just say? And I feel like I'm having to ask people to repeat phrases or explain little, slang words here and there to me, just so I make sense of what's going on. So I joke
and
that
not get offended by the English humor that people sometimes get offended by.
Sometimes, and vice versa with American humor. You can find the differences and at least laugh at the differences too. But I joke that I end up having to look up words or look up phrases or ask people to repeat stuff in English here far more frequently than I ever did living in the Netherlands.
Wow, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Did you feel like kind of you stuck out? Did you feel foreign when you're living in Europe? Do you still feel that? Do you feel like you kind of stick out or no? Kind of, because you do look kind of like you could assimilate, at least everyone always looks at the exterior. And it looks like, especially with the blonde, with the Dutch and potentially the English. But did you feel like you stuck out as a foreigner to the locals?
I'd say some days, yes, I feel like I stuck out. And some days, no, I felt like, oh, I blend in, I feel like I blend in so easily, so quickly. No one gives me a second look anymore. It's just, whatever. And that was after I started, wearing clothes or makeup or hairstyles that were more on trend for Amsterdam or London. But I think the better person to ask that question to would be all my friends. Like, do I stick out to them? And I think the answer is probably yes.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Partly, I think, because I'm always wearing color. I still feel like that's the American in me comes out. I want to, show up and show out. And then I also like to, just try different like makeup trends that I feel like is maybe more American focused or American celebrated. Whereas it's a lot more easy breezy styles and easy breezy makeup and all that kind of stuff over here. So, and then the second I open up my mouth and talk, then it's, obviously you're American.
Now we get it.
Yeah. You look different. You look a little funny. And now you confirmed it. Okay.
Now you confirmed it. So now that you work in London and live there, do you consider that home?
That's a good question. I do, but it's not so much London is home. It's in my mind, it's home is here. Home is become wherever I am. That's my biggest lesson in moving abroad. Home is where I am. And home to me, it's a haven. It's not just the four walls around me. It's that safe space that I can carry with me wherever I am. And it's nice to have a place that is safe and comfortable and warm and I feel secure in. Definitely, I appreciate that so much more living, abroad and away from the US. Home has a different meaning to me here, but it's really, it's the safe haven. It's wherever I am, that's home. So is London my home? It's London. Yeah, it is. But it's, for me, home is just right here where I'm at and who I'm with and how I'm feeling in this moment.
I think that's just beautiful because I think, like I was speaking with previous guests, that some people can adapt to change and some cannot. And so with change, you kind of bring home with you wherever you are. You kind of let go of the attachment to material things or definitions, and it helps you process this journey of life that's ever changing that some people resist. And I feel like you've reached that point. That's that spiritual part of it. Of that home is wherever you are, and that you're safe and happy. And you can make anywhere home, you have that ability to create that home feeling for yourself. That's great.
Yeah.
That's great. That's what helps. I think only certain people can do this whole moving abroad, because it does take a lot of letting go and detachments.
Yeah.
What would you say is the pros and cons from moving away from the US?
Oh,
home in the US.
my home in the US. I miss the convenience of America. Man.
Such as what?
Okay, Target. Going to Target. I miss just going to Target and getting a Starbucks. I don't even like drinking Starbucks coffee, but it's like the ritual of parking your car, going into Starbucks, grabbing your drink.
That's hilarious.
Walking around.
You probably save a lot of money not going to Target. So
True. My budget's much happier without Target existing here. But it's a different, it's a different way of doing life, when you're away from convenience. And I mean, I like it both ways. But I do miss some of the convenience factors, or I miss the just options everywhere in America. Whatever you want, you've got options everywhere. There's something for everyone. And
interesting.
Yeah. And you just don't have to even think about it. Back in the US, it's just, I know that if I get my friends together at this place or this restaurant, they're going to offer 100 options. They'll customize things, tailor things to each person's needs. It's much more, the sky's the limit in America.
See, I would think that it was a little bit different, like especially with London being so internationally diverse. Like I feel like for someone like me or someone else ethical, that going to London is just like you finally had that larger community, that the authentic like restaurants, authentic grocery stores, you can find what you need. Here is still not as available in that aspect. But I love that part of the Europeans, especially London, being so diverse that they have that pockets of like, where you can go to pick up what you want or what you crave, like, ethnic foods and so forth.
That is true. There are definitely pockets, and there is something for everyone here. I see it as, what you see is what you get here. Like, this is what's available. This is what we're offering. And it's not that there's no accommodation made. It's just, I think it's just a different attitude towards, well, this is what, we have, this is what we serve for here. So this is what you can choose from. And I feel like in the States, it was just more of, well, we have something for, you're here in an American restaurant, but we have like a Japanese twist, or we have an Italian side or something. It was just more of like trying to do everything all at once back in the US. And sometimes that's kind of nice. Sometimes it's kind of a bit of a relief that you can just show up and just know that it'll all happen, know that it'll all come together. Or you'll have opportunities to get creative. And I feel like here it's more of what you see is what you get. And you'll have to look for certain things that you really want.
So what is the pros then of being there compared? What does the European lifestyle offer that the US doesn't?
Oh man, a lot.
A lot more vacation time.
I'm going to bring that up for sure. Definitely the vacation side. It is. And it's seen as the focus is on balance. a good life is not just, what toys do you have? What car do you drive? It's how hard do you work or what title you have. You can have some of that focus and be part of the equation here, but the real equation for success is living a balanced life. And yeah, it's understood you're going to work. You may work very hard, but it's not put on a pedestal as, oh, you're the hardest working person in the office. Oh, good for you. It's what's wrong? Is home not good enough for you? Like, do you not want to be at home? Do you not want to go on vacation? Like, what is everything okay? So there's a focus or a shift on you as a person, a whole person, and having professional development, but personal well-being and authentic balance. And having 5 to 6 weeks of holiday a year that you're encouraged to use.
Wow.
And not be bothered during that time away. I mean, that's amazing. And I've also noticed even recently, it's like, it's the month of June. It's just started June. And friends and coworkers have been like, oh, do you need a holiday? Like, do you need a vacation? Like, you haven't been on a vacation in like a couple of weeks. I'm like, do you need a holiday? It's like, yeah, I do. It's time for a holiday. And it's like, it's not just, oh, you look tired, you need a holiday. It's oh, you need something to spice up life. Like, go on a holiday. Like, obviously, duh. So it's like, oh, yeah, it's more of just kind of that needs to be part of the balanced equation rather than the fix it or the cure. It should be, it's time for one. So go, and it's honored. You definitely are encouraged, and it's honored. That time away is for you. It's for your well-being.
So I guess one aspect a lot of people don't see or mention is that one time I met a gentleman who was from Welsh. He was Wales. Well, he's Welsh. And I would ask them, I always ask the Europeans, I'm like, why are you here? Why did you stay there? And he's like, taxes, So even though you get the vacation, the people don't realize that you get taxed more. There's a cap to how much you can grow professionally. And that's true, correct? That those are some of the downsides that people do decide to get the better opportunity in the US or move to the US for such aspirations.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, back to what I may have mentioned earlier with, the sky's the limit back in the US. It's a very fertile area to be creative, to maybe be your own person, to pick and choose what you want to do in the US, but it's usually high stakes, maybe high risk, high reward. And that can be really appealing versus over here. Yeah, I can definitely see, there's caps, there's limits, there's a few checks and balances to kind of keep things a little bit more status quo. So maybe there's some pros and cons within that. It's suitable for some people and not so suitable for other people, or in different stages of life. Maybe they don't want to try something different or work hard, have a huge payoff, and see where that takes them. And explore it. Yeah.
Like, I know a lot with these trends I was seeing a lot of people are talking about, especially the healthcare in the US is pretty bad. It's really overpriced and bad. And people are like moving to these other countries, but yet they don't realize, I guess, I don't know how that works as if you come as a tourist, I can use the healthcare system, but eventually if you do work, you get taxed. That's what covers these healthcare prices. So they're not seeing what area, of course, in the end, everyone's paying sort of the same amount, whether through taxes or out of pocket in a sense. But it is but definitely the system is a little bit better in Europe. So do you see yourself living in Europe for the long haul, or would you think you would come back?
Another good question. Well, I don't know how to answer it because on the one hand, I'd love to stay here. I'd love to live here, have my roots here. That's always been appealing for me to have roots.
Yeah.
On the other hand, though, I mean, I never thought, if you'd asked me 5 years ago if I would ever live outside the US, I would have told you, no way, because I never thought an opportunity would become available or that I would consider it. It was something that I just assumed I'd always live in the US, and that was kind of expected. So could I see myself living here long term? I can see myself living here long term. I like that idea.
No, but I also miss you. But I'll come over there. I'll come over there, actually.
Yeah, come over here. On the other hand, I can see myself just continuing to say yes to adventures everywhere, living in other countries, living in other parts of the world. It's I don't know. It's a big fun adventure. Why not try another place? I mean, when I moved
Yeah.
to the Netherlands, I remember thinking like, this is a lot of newness, this is a lot of challenge. But I'd
Yeah.
always counter that whenever I felt overwhelmed. I'd counter it with, I'm not the first person to do this. It's not like I'm moving to Mars. This is doable. It's been done for so long. There's, an answer to every question I have. So if I want to up and go, I don't know, maybe Australia one day, there will be a path. There will be a way to go about it. And someone's already been there and done it, right before me. So I'm not the first pioneer to make it over there. And it would be a fun adventure.
Yeah.
So I'm yes
Yeah.
to adventure, yes
I
to
love that.
opportunities. Yeah.
That's amazing. So I think one thing that gets to me though with this whole, like I say, this trend that I've been seeing, I don't know if I'm the only one that's seeing this on TikTok or what, but but as an immigration attorney, what kills me is the hypocrisy of it because, the sentiment here is anti-immigration, foreigners are taking our jobs, et cetera, et cetera. But yet then I'm seeing all of this stuff where Americans are tired of the system here, especially healthcare and so forth, the rules that they put themselves, and they're leaving to go to another country. And I'm like, oh, so no one's allowed to come to the US, but you feel that you guys are entitled to go into another country and kind of engulf it, or maybe not even assimilate into their culture. I feel like there's that, what do you call it? The entitlement feeling of Americans being, should be welcomed everywhere, What is the feeling over there of America? Have you seen like the trend of Americans moving to Europe, or do you have insight to what the sentiment is of Americans coming to Europe?
Yeah, I've seen it in different contexts where Americans come over, and in some contexts where they're over for work related purposes. It could be like a short-term assignment, like they're there for a year or 2 years, and the sentiment is, oh, you're just going to leave. You're kind of transient. You're not here to really experience and stay and try to make it work. So why would I try to make it work with you? That might seem a little harsh, but it's kind of like a why invest in trying to build a connection or a friendship if you're this, loud, proud American coming over, going to tell me that I'm wrong or telling me that, I've got it backwards, and you're just going to be here and do your thing for a year or two and then pack up and go back home. Like kind of I don't know, like a sentiment of, I don't know how to describe that. I mean, I hear I hear the perspective on it and I see it and it makes me cringe because I'm like, oh yeah. But on this other hand, I mean, that seems like a very superficial perspective of an American coming over for a year or two. Because on the other hand, that year or two can be incredibly insightful and impactful and change that American person's perspective, change their way of doing life. I mean, it certainly impacted mine.
Are they welcoming of like the Americans coming in, or they kind of be like, oh no, because what's the reputation Americans have abroad?
I think welcoming for sure, but also the idea of, okay, well, you're an American. You think you're right about everything. You think you save everything. You're the number one person in the room all the time. I mean, there's a sense of, a heady arrogance that comes with an American, and it's part of the upbringing, subtly, subconsciously. It's just part of every aspect of American life and culture. And I can definitely see that and own that, having, stepped on the other side of the pond, so to speak, and see it from like a different context, see it from like a different perspective of, ooh, yeah, we didn't learn that in history class. Oh, yeah, that's not the story we were told. Oh, wow. And not that I was, not that I was the super loud, proud American, but it was the sense of, okay, maybe I should shut up and sit down and take notes here, So there's some stereotypes that are absolutely true about Americans. It's a stereotype because it's based on pretty persistent fact, and I think if you're kind of coming over and having that awareness to their expectations or the stereotypes, and just be like, yeah, maybe I should just listen. Maybe I should just observe, see that life can be done 100 different ways and still be beautiful and meaningful. And maybe my definitions of success and normal and healthy and what a balanced life are, maybe my definitions can change, and they certainly do change. And you're forced to realize things that you would never learn or realize being in the same context, in the same neighborhood, in the same way of life back home. So it's a good challenge to, your whole paradigm. I think it's great.
I love that.
I'm not sure if I answered your question, Nushin, because I think I went on
you did. No, I was just wondering, because I feel like, I don't know, when you see these videos, there's this sense of entitlement. It's like, we're just going to pick up and go. It's like as if they're they have that permission, or they're welcomed with open arms in other countries where, the stereotype, there is a stereotype of Americans. And then I think as an immigration attorney, it just gets that hypocrisy gets me that where, why are you so anti-immigration over here, but you feel you should be welcomed and could pick up and go anywhere you want to, in a sense. That part kind of is interesting. But to kind of close on this, so what would your tips be for someone who voluntarily decides to immigrate outside the U.S.? Is the grass greener on the other side?
Well,
on the other side of the pond.
Yeah. Well, there's more than just grass. There's plants, there's trees, there's gorgeous nature. So yes, there's so much more that you can't even begin to compare. Like there's not much of a comparison in some ways. So my tip is go and stay at that country for like a month if you can. Like, I know it's a big investment of time and resources, but if you're considering moving abroad to a place, then give it a real feel, like go. I had not visited the Netherlands before I interviewed for that role.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, but I knew I was going to say yes. I knew I wanted to figure it out and try it out. But when I went and visited and, had my interviews in person there, I fell in love with the place. So even though I had the attitude of I would make this work no matter what, just being there and saying, oh, I can see myself getting groceries here. I can see myself, walking down the street and getting on that bus. And that's my ticket to get to work. Just how do I do day-to-day life? Not just the glamorous, fun, touristy stuff, which of course you can still do, but can you really see yourself doing day-to-day life for a month? For 2 months even, but just giving it a go and saying, yeah, I can have a bad day in this country and have everything go wrong, have everything seem to go against me, but I still really like the energy. I like the way people treat other people. I like the sense of balance here and really having that gut check. And then, if you want it to work, if you want to give it a shot, it will work one way or another. Yeah, it can definitely work for however long you want to be there. I think there's a way. It's a lot easier. I think from what I've gathered and experienced, it's so much easier to pack up and go elsewhere outside of America than it is the other way around. It's just unbelievable to try to do that in reverse and try to get into America and try to do life in the US. I mean, that from what I've heard and what I'm sure you've heard and tried to help out with, it's just ridiculous. So if it's possible to do that, go to Europe, go to the Caribbean, go to Asia. I mean, all these great places, just, if you want to go, if you have a desire, do it, flesh it out.
I'm one of those, and hopefully so. We'll see where our path takes us. But until then, I'm going to come. I'm going to be knocking on your door over there in London. Scout some places out and hopefully see you soon. Oh, I'm so happy I got to catch up with you. It's been a while, and I can't wait for you to come back and see you in person soon.
Yeah, it's so good to see you. I can't wait to have you come
so much. I will definitely. So good to see you. You take care of yourself. And enjoy. I'm so happy for you.